In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car less than 12 years old. Next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your website, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 $3 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
Is debt beating you down? You need discipline. You need the Debt Ninja. If you've been caught in a financial trap and need to be set free, then you need the Debt Ninja. Want to stop those harassing collection calls, start saving thousands in interest and fees, and get out of debt fast? Then you need to call the Debt Ninja. The Debt Ninja will find the best companies across the country that will help you consolidate all your bills into one easy payment, reduce your payments by 30 to 50%, and get you out of debt fast. If you have unsecured debt of $10,000 or more, such as credit cards, loans, or medical bills, call the Debt Ninja for a free 15-minute consultation.
Call 800-826-1246. 800-826-1246. That's 800-826-1246. Call today.
The Debt Ninja.
It's time to hear the truth about America's biggest challenges. You're listening to America Off the Rails with your host, Rick Robinson.
Listen, folks, I'm here to tell you our political system is broken. The two-party system is dead. They have become one and the same.
Keep on doing what you do, Rick. You're my favorite host. Favorite host.
This is always the killer, the one that just destroys that never Trump argument. Hillary Clinton will fill the Supreme Court with liberals. She'll also appoint federal judges with a liberal bent to them.
I don't feel no ways tired. I come too far from where I started from. Don't let anybody tell you that it's corporations and businesses that create jobs.
Arrogant, sanctimonious, self-righteous, sabotaging Trump.
Everybody's got to be covered. This is an un-Republican thing for me to say, because a lot of times they say, no, the lower 25%, they can't afford. I am going to take care of everybody. I don't care if it costs me votes or not. Everybody's going to be taken care of, much better than they're taken care of now. The government's going to pay for it, but we're going to save so much money on the other side.
ISIS is honoring President Obama. He is the founder of ISIS. He's the founder of ISIS.
Written by a nice reporter. Now the poor guy, you got to see this guy. I don't know what I said. I don't remember. He's going like, I don't remember. Maybe that's what I said.
What realized is that the Bill Kristols of the world, the never Trump people, they were just never serious. They never had any kind of ground game. They never had an actual candidate they could pick.
And in a surprising and disturbing move today, the Libertarian vice presidential candidate just agreed that rifles are weapons of mass destruction, and people on the terror watch list should not be allowed to purchase guns. So in other words, the party of freedom is liberty for me, but not for thee.
Compromise where you can. Where you can't, don't. Even if everyone is telling you that something wrong is something right. Even if the whole world is telling you to move, it is your duty to plant yourself like a tree.
All right, hello everybody. This is America Off the Rails. I'm your host, Rick Robinson, and this is the episode that will be officially airing on September 30th, 2016. It's actually also live at just a few minutes past the hour of 10 Central on September 29th. I have a guest with me this evening. You may remember him from the roundtable we did on Monday. We have Jackson Richmond with us today. We're going to spend some time maybe slowing things down, backing things up a little bit in regards to the debate, and then we're going to see where the rest of the night takes us. So for those of you that are listening to us live, make sure you get over to the chat room. For those of you listening tomorrow, you can still hang out in the chat. Sadly, I still have a day job for the moment, so I will not be able to join you. But, you know, I've seen a few of you in there talking, chatting, hanging out while I'm broadcasting my show, so I appreciate that. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and bring the guest over, and we're going to get started. Good evening, Mr. Richmond. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, Rick?
I should say technically good morning, since this show will be airing twice. But hey, how you doing, brother?
Still doing well, whether it's night or day.
Well, I'd like to say the same thing, but this whole mess our country is in is just more than a little disturbing. So instead of going straight into the topics of the day, I thought we would actually back things up a little bit. I want to get your take on the debates. Did anything change for you? Did anybody say anything that stuck out for you? Were there any game-changing moments for you, or are you still pretty much in the same boat you were in before the debate, now after the debate?
Well, for starters, I'm still in the same boat. I'm still in the never Trump or Hillary camp. Also, it is what I expected it to be. It was a mudslinger, and I don't feel like Trump was on the offensive most of the night. I felt like he was mostly on the defensive, and Hillary played him like a violin. I mean, playing Trump to her own rhythm, beat, insert any musical analogy you want. She was in control. Trump was all over the place. And at the end of the day, Hillary won.
And as much as it pains me to say this, I actually agree with you in a lot of ways. I have to say, honestly, I've been never Trump for a while. I don't know if you and I have talked much since the debates and everything got into full swing for the primaries. I know we were hanging out at CPAC, but we never really got a chance to talk too much because we were running around like crazy people trying to do the jobs that they sent us there to do. But all the way back to the beginning, back when he first announced, I have to admit that for about a month, I was actually pretty squarely in the Trump camp. I hadn't bought a ticket to the train yet, but I liked the fact that he was telling people exactly what he thought. I liked the fact that he was starting to beat them up on the debate stages, etc. And really, the only thing that really started slowly making me realize that this is probably not a good idea is the fact that the man doesn't seem to have an off switch, and he doesn't seem to know when to quit. And he also gets in this, what I like to call the berserker mode, where once he's designated a target, he does nothing but go after that target relentlessly, no matter what. And it doesn't matter if it's somebody on the same side as him or somebody that's on a different side as him. If he views them as an enemy, as far as he's concerned, it's his job to destroy them. And the sad thing is he's done just that, and he's done it with the Republican Party. At this point, the entire Republican Party is basically in a shambles. What used to be the party of liberty and freedom is now the party of I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. And they have also become a group that seems to be more easily aligned with bigots and racists. And it's just a sad day for me to look at the Republican Party and go, all these people that I said were wrong for all these years when they talked about what the Republican Party was, and I said, no, that's not actually what we stand for. That's great that now this entire group of people seems to have single-handedly proved me wrong.
Well, look, there are extremists on both sides of the aisle. Also, you mentioned CPAC. I was talking to Jim Garrity of National Review at that bar where we met each other, and I told him that last year I had this inkling that there would be divide within the Republican Party between the moderates and the conservatives, but little did I think there would be this populist implosion led by Donald Trump. And Garrity said both parties are imploding, and he's right. Both the Democrats and Republicans are self-destructing, and we're seeing it right in front of our eyes. The Democrats have nominated a career political crook in Hillary Clinton, and the Republicans have nominated someone who's not even a conservative in Donald Trump. And I think we have to wait till after the election to see what happens. If Hillary wins, yeah, it's going to suck, but she'll only last 4 years, in which the GOP, if it can get its act together, will be able to reincarnate and hopefully nominate a conservative in 2020. And also, I'm looking forward to the day that Jonah Goldberg, John Podhoretz, and those that are still in the conservative camp, in the Never Trump or Hillary camp, who will bash Hannity, Laura Ingraham, and those who fell for Trump's spell. But let's not get ahead of ourselves and think, oh, the GOP is doomed and we're all of a sudden the party of bigots. Now, let's see what happens after this election. Because we can say the Democrats are the party of racists. having support of the KKK, and that more Republicans than Democrats voted in favor of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. So let's not get ahead of ourselves.
I like your optimism, but I'm not sure I'm still there with you. And you could be right. I mean, after the election, whoever wins. I mean, look, let's face it. At this point, if you are conservative in this country, no matter who wins, at the end of the day, as soon as we figure out and we've tallied up the votes and we've licked our wounds and we've cleared away all the debris, we're going to have tons of work to do, no matter which one of these jabronis gets into the White House, because neither one of them is going to have our best interest at heart, and they've proven that time and time again. Now, again, my whole thing with the debate, you had mentioned that it was a mudslinging contest. I kind of look at it a different way. They put a couple of monkeys in suits and taught them how to fling poo back and forth at each other, and that basically sums up the debates, because that's really all it was. Nobody gave us any substance. Nobody talked about anything important. All they did was talk about how terrible the other person was. Nobody really told us how they were going to fix anything, what their plans were. But if you look at then, and the reason at this point that I'm saying I don't think this is going to be something that the conservative movement, or not necessarily the conservative movement, but the Republican Party is going to be able to recover from, is because for the first time in my lifetime, they are using progressive talking points. They're now talking about giving people paid daycare. When Bernie Sanders recommended the same exact thing, it was crazy. It was stupid. How are we going to pay for it? So Trump comes up with this idea of making it a tax credit attached to the EIC instead and cuts it in half. And all of a sudden, all the conservatives are like, "Oh, this is a great idea." When the actual
also cried foul when Rubio introduced a child tax credit. Also, it's not like the Republicans were always a conservative party. Remember Nixon? Nixon wasn't a conservative. National Review refused to endorse him for president.
Oh, no. I mean, I understand the Republican Party has not always been a conservative party, but for the last several decades, it has been the home to conservatism. That's what everybody tells you. When you talk about the word conservatism, GOP and conservatism go hand in hand. That's why, at least lately, and that's why a lot of us that are in the GOP have been horrified watching us slowly start moving away from that. Because, I mean, look, I'm going to be honest with you. I've talked to a lot of people that are within your age bracket. The choices that folks have put up for them in this election cycle have turned them off to politics for years. Nobody in your age bracket typically wants to vote for Hillary. Nobody in your age bracket really wants to vote for Trump. So they feel like they don't have very many options, and then they're overlooking at Jill Stein and Gary Johnson.
What you're mentioning is exactly what Kristen Soltis Anderson, notable Republican pollster, said tonight on Fox News, specifically on the record with Brit Hume, that millennials are the biggest group, biggest demographic that's undecided in this election. They're not enthusiastic about either nominee. So Clinton is going to try to attack Johnson to attract those millennials and be able to climb the edge, so to speak, over Trump and get that narrow victory. Can't get it without millennials. She needs that Obama coalition of millennials.
And I honestly don't think she's going to get it. I mean, look, at one point, and the thing about it is, if you look, at one point, this looked like it was going to be a clear runaway for Clinton. I'm not sure she's going to be able to hold it. She's had too many things that have gone sideways. Now, look, I'm not going to tell you which one I think is worse for the country, because as far as I'm concerned, you might as well flip a coin. Because no matter which one of them gets into the White House, freedom is going to be compromised. There are going to be things that happen that shouldn't inside of each administration. One may be slightly worse than the other in certain respects, but the other is going to be equally as worse in other ways. And that's been my problem all along. We used to try to put up candidates of clear difference. At some point, we started letting the media help us pick our candidates, and once they figured out we were willing to let them do that, they started figuring out ways they could run the table with us. It's how we wound up with McCain. It's how we wound up with Romney, and it is again how we wound up with Trump, because now for 3 cycles they have figured this out.
With McCain and Romney, they're conservative. They're at least an inch conservative. Trump is not a conservative whatsoever.
No, I'm not disagreeing with that point with you. But even when McCain was running, there were more conservative people in there. But people started listening to the media who were propping him up for a reason. The media and the Democratic Party for now 3 cycles has been pulling a rope-a-dope on the American people. They hype up the candidate that they think is going to be the easiest to obliterate, and so far for 2 out of 3 cycles, it's worked. I think it still may work with...
It's the Democratic greatest super PAC, the mainstream media. There's no surprise there.
Well, no, I mean, I'm not saying I'm surprised. I'm just saying, what I'm saying I'm surprised about is that we as conservatives continually fall for it. That's what I'm saying I'm surprised about. Because
look, if Rubio or Kasich or even Cruz was the nominee, this would have been over, and the GOP would have won with all Hillary's troubles. But no, in the 1 year that the GOP could easily take back the White House, they nominated the one candidate Hillary can defeat in November. Absolutely tragic and disgraceful.
Well, I mean, let's look at it logically for a second. Let's put the shoe on the other foot. Let's pretend that Monday night there was a debate between Cruz and Hillary. Cruz would have obliterated her because he could have pointed out everything that she's done wrong as Secretary of State. Donald Trump can't even keep up with the things that he's done wrong, much less keep up with the things that she's done wrong. And after his debate performance, I fully understand why Donald Trump refused to go toe-to-toe with Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz would have destroyed him on the stage and made him look like an idiot.
Yep.
And I know everybody that's listening right now is like, oh my God, another Cruz supporter going off the rails and talking about how great Cruz is. Look, Cruz wasn't even like my 6th choice. But at the end of the day, when it came down to just him and Trump and Kasich, when Trump was using Kasich as a wedge, because that's what that was, folks. There's no denying that at this point. There is now confirmation that Kasich was originally shopped the Veep position, and he was done so in a phone conversation with one of Trump's sons, and there were things that came to light during that conversation that Kasich wasn't comfortable with, and Kasich then shortly thereafter dropped out of the race, and at that point, that was it. There was still a chance that Cruz could have stayed in it and maybe turned things around if Donald Trump had not tucked tail and said, nope, I don't need to debate anymore. I've already cleaned the clock of every single one of these people up here. And nothing could be further from the truth. Because when you've got 12, 14, 15, 16 people all vying for attention, what happens is they target the biggest guy in the room, which at that time was Donald Trump, because he was the one with the biggest name recognition. So they would get a couple of shots off at him, and then they would spend the rest of the time trying to knock each other off the pedestals, and all Donald Trump had to do every so often was get in a decent one-liner or zinger to hold the public's attention. And that's how he got to where he was. And he knew that going in. He's been a showmaster of reality TV now for a very long time, and that's basically what he's done, is use the debate cycles as his own political reality TV show. He worked the crowds, he worked the rooms, he knew what to do, he knew when to dodge, he knew when to duck, and he knew when to leave. And that's exactly what he did, and that's how he got here. And that's why he came so hard after Cruz and went so hard to try to discredit Cruz and get people to start talking badly about Cruz, because he knew if it ever got to the point where he and Cruz were on the same debate stage, he was going to get obliterated. Because Ted Cruz, whether anybody wants to admit it or not, is a really good public speaker. I've heard him speak live in person. He's amazing. I have heard him recite facts word for word, because the man has the ability to remember everything that he's ever heard. Now, you can't tell me that with someone like Donald Trump, who changes his story depending on who he's talking to, day in and day out, and doesn't even know what the true definition of the word truth is, that somebody that has that ability would not have been able to decimate him on a debate stage. And Donald Trump knew that, and that's why he vilified Cruz. That's why he went after Cruz's family. That's why he went after Cruz's wife. That's why he started spouting off about Enquirer articles that were pointless. Because let's face it, yes, there's all this stuff about the National Enquirer, and supposedly they've been right 9 times out of 10 times if they start talking about politicians that have had affairs. It turns out to be true, etc. If that was actually true, they'd still be talking about it today. They're not.
The only reason National Enquirer is even relevant is because they talk about scandal. Other than that, they're garbage. That aside, there's just too many candidates. And the problem was when Trump was taking control of the polls, those other candidates were splitting up the anti-Trump vote. and they weren't dropping one by one like dominoes and be like, okay, who should take on Trump so we don't have this populist bigot as the nominee. Instead, they were only self-interested. That was like Kasich. And as much as Kasich was my second choice for president, he should have dropped out and realized, okay, this isn't my time. This isn't working out. I need to withdraw from the race. But no, he selfishly decided to stay in.
Well, I mean, honestly, I think he was requested to stay in at the request of the Trump campaign. Look, I'm still in a bit of a quandary here because I honestly believe that we've been set up. I still cannot get past the fact that Donald Trump had a phone conversation with Bill Clinton before he decided to run.
I always had this inkling that it was set up by the Clintons, but the thing is, well, now that Trump actually has a chance to defeat Hillary, I mean, that's karma being a B word. I mean, and you can arrest Hillary, and then, I mean, it's like the dog coming back to bite you, or whatever analogy applies.
Well, no, and I agree with that.
Most of the GOP primaries were open, which allowed for there to be sabotage. I mean, did he know those intricacies?
I don't necessarily think he knew enough of the intricacies, because let's face it, his children didn't even know enough about the process to change their status so they could vote for him. So I don't necessarily think that he was the mastermind behind a lot of that, but he didn't necessarily have to be. I think I think at some point it changed for him. Because if you'll notice, every so often when he was getting really, really high up in the polls, I don't think he was ever supposed to be the guy that was standing on the stage with Hillary Clinton. I think the plan was to be and to assume the role that Kasich played. The blocker, the guy standing there taking just enough of the votes that whoever's left will not be able to beat Hillary Clinton. And I think his plan was to be that guy. Because if you notice, anytime he started getting really, really high up in the polls, he did something outrageously stupid. And nobody called him.
I don't think he would go after the Clinton family and mention Vince Foster, and I don't feel like he would go that far. If you're set up, you're not going to attack someone's family.
See, that goes back to the fact that I have some really weird friends, and I have one of them in particular that we go after each other on purpose and try to get under each other's skin. I think these two are twisted enough that they may have that type of friendship. And look, at this point, I'm not sure he's pulling punches anymore, because I think it started as a joke. I think it started as a plan to make sure that Hillary got to the White House. But at the same time, I think something changed for him, because no matter what he did, he couldn't stop his momentum. He was trying to stop it on purpose there for a while. There's no way you can tell me otherwise, because anytime the media ever shifted any focus to her, the first thing that he did was run out, start saying and jumping up and down, saying something completely stupid and getting the spotlight right back on him. I think a lot of that was by design. I don't think he was ever supposed to get where he is now, and I think that's why there have been all of these false starts and shuffling of positions and changing of personnel, etc., because at some point this was supposed to die out on its own, and then he realized, hey, I really do kind of have a shot at this, and this has been something that I've been thinking about since the 80s. So I think at some point this went from, hey, I'm just going to be your whipping boy to make sure you get into the White House, to what the hell, we've got a chance to do this, we might as well do it. So I think for him at some point something legitimately did change. I think, unfortunately, though, a lot of whatever wind he had in his sails, I don't think the debate did him many favors. Because at the end of the day, he did exactly what everybody thought he wasn't going to do, and he didn't go after her in the ways that mattered. He didn't turn things around on her. Like, look, I don't like the fact that in 2003 he said one thing about the Iraq War, and now he's saying something else. But the simple fact of the matter is, as soon as she brought that up, he could have said, look, that was 2003, I know a lot more about it now than I did then. And first and second of all, I wasn't a politician at that point. I didn't vote for it. You did. All I did was tell somebody on TV that I supported the idea, and I didn't even really give it a full-throated endorsement.
Rather than beat the bush, I beat around the bush. I absolutely agree with that.
But that's what they expected him to do, and he didn't do it.
Just Trump. He's a reality and business mogul. I mean, what do you expect? And do I think he can be an engine to pass Republican and conservative things, even though Trump's not conservative himself? Yeah, but it's not a risk I want to take. And that's why I'm still in the never Trump camp. No, I think we can survive 4 years of Clinton as long as we have a GOP-controlled Congress. And at the end of the day, Clinton will keep digging the Democratic Party's grave. And if the GOP can get its act together and nominate a conservative in 2020, we can take back the White House. It sucks that it didn't happen this year, but you know what? Time to regroup.
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, brother, you're looking at some things through some really staunchly rose-colored glasses, because I don't see, at this point, you're starting
We can't go third party, Rick. I mean, where are the conservatives going to go? Do you know how nearly impossible it is to form that third party and get recognition?
I understand that. I understand that it's an impossible thing, but is it not time to start thinking about doing the impossible when your whole party shoved you out the airlock?
What would you do if you can't do a third party? Well, then you're just going to have to keep fighting within the GOP.
Who says we? That's the thing, Jackson, and we need to take a break real quick, but I want to bring this up because you sound like a lot of the other people that I've been talking to lately. They keep saying, there's no way we could do a third party, there's no way we could do a third party, there's no way we could do a third party. This would have been the one and only chance that we probably could have done a third party, because for the first time in my lifetime... But for the first time in my lifetime, Jackson, 66% of people, when these polls first started getting formulated, didn't want either one of them. If those 66% could have formulated behind a candidate, this would have been over.
Like who, Romney? I wanted Romney to run, don't get me wrong, but the thing is, would Romney have built up enough momentum, and what would have happened within the GOP? I mean, it would have...
Well, no, I'm not saying anything about Romney. I think the Libertarian Party... I think the Libertarian Party shot itself in the foot. They had a really strong chance at actually bringing a lot of disenfranchised conservatives over to their side of the argument if they would have put up Austin Peterson. But they chose not to do that.
As well known of a name as Gary Johnson.
This isn't a...
Steve Wynn, and you need
this
funding.
isn't...
Steve Wynn is a billionaire, one of the wealthiest people in the world. You have to be centrist, I feel like. That's where Johnson is heading.
Okay. So Okay, so are you going to keep talking over me on my own show, brother? Because I got a mute button. I can use it.
I didn't know you were speaking.
No, it's all right. I'm just giving you a hard time. But no, I'm just saying, look, what I was saying at this point is I know that Austin Peterson didn't have the name recognition, but let's face it, Gary Johnson doesn't have a very positive name recognition. He's known as the Colorado Brownie Boy. So I'm not sure that name recognition in this instance is actually helping things. And Austin Peterson, if anything, would have been a lot more moderate than even Gary Johnson in a lot of ways, because he's pro-life across the board. There are even a few things that Austin Peterson had said that I wasn't necessarily completely on board with. But at the same time, we had to do something. But the issue is the Libertarian Party decided that they didn't want conservatives. So that's why they did things on their terms. They brought out Gary Johnson, who was basically somebody whose biggest thing is marijuana reform and a few other little things here and there. And then they brought out his vice presidential candidate nominee. And between the two of them, they have even been using liberal talking points. They've talked about the no-fly list becoming the no-buy list. Gary Johnson has flirted with the carbon tax thing. I have issues with all of that because I thought the Libertarian Party was supposed to be the party of get the government out of my business, and yet they're talking about getting the government right back into my business. So, I mean, I honestly don't know where we go from this point. And I hope that maybe your ideas and your mindset is not as rose-colored glasses as I'm seeing, as it appears to be to me. And I'm not trying to say that you're wrong. I'm saying that we have a difference of opinion, because I don't really see the Republican Party being able to recover from this, because Donald Trump has been running around like a bull in a china shop, and there's really not very many conservatives actually left in the party, because we were basically told to get the hell out.
Where do we go?
I don't know where we go, but I know that nobody wants us, so why would we stay? The Democrats don't want us, the Libertarians don't want us, and apparently the Republicans don't want us. So your guess is good as mine as to where we go, but it doesn't change the fact that nobody seems to want us. All right, so we got to take a really quick break. We're already long. We're into the bottom of the hour. When we come back, we're going to keep talking debates 2016 and probably shift over to some news stories, because there have been lots of things going on that I think Jackson's probably going to want to weigh in on. So we'll be right back here in just a moment. You are listening to America Off the Rails, a special live late night edition. and also re-airing in our usual morning time slot. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Things are going to get real interesting. You're listening to the Spark Radio Network.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of a short story through to line edits of a full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
All right, welcome back, folks. We're back. We're here. We're live. We're going to change gears. I think we've kind of, in between the shows that I've done all this debate talking on, I think I've talked about it for about 8 hours now. I think I'm about debate talked out. So we're going to change gears a little bit. Jackson's the host, so I'm going to let you pick. Where are we going next? Or the guest. I'm the host. I'm tired. What can I say? Where do you want to go next, brother? Pick something.
Let's go to the 9/11 bill.
Yes, let's. So you'd mentioned off the break that you were kind of torn on that one, so why don't you go ahead and give folks your thoughts, because they hear me talk enough.
Yeah, so no, I think it was justice for the 9/11 families, but at the same time, I do feel like it was a political ploy, in that if a member of Congress were to vote against it, it would be as if they're voting against the victims of 9/11. And also, people are misinformed about that, and that really ticks me off, in that, oh my god, now any country can sue the U.S. No, this only has to do with U.S.-Saudi relations with regards to 9/11. This has nothing to do with any other country. It doesn't have to do with Iraq, doesn't have to do with Afghanistan. It's only regarding the regarding the Saudi government. So, I mean, will the Saudis show up to court? Probably not. But you give justice to the 9/11 families, but at the same time, you do this as a political ploy before the election. So, I mean, as Charles Krauthammer said tonight on Special Report, and of course I usually agree with my inspiration, it was mostly pointless. I mean, yeah, you got justice for 9/11 families, but at the same time, it was more of a point exercise. You know, and that, I mean, the Saudis aren't going to show up to court.
Well, no, I agree.
What was your take, Rick?
No, I agree. They're likely not going to show up. Now, you and I are going to disagree on one point on the face of it, and no, I'm not saying that this is going to happen instantaneously or it's going to instantly open us up to all kinds of things, but this is one of those areas where I really don't think that anybody thought through the unintended consequences, because no, it doesn't mean that the American public and the American country are going to be immediately open to lawsuits by other countries. But this is going to set a legal precedence. And it's going to set a legal precedence that other countries will start being able to mirror. And there are plenty of countries that feel like we have done things in an incorrect way. We have done things that were terrible. We have done things that should have never happened. And now that we have opened that box, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not a year from now, but at some point they will be able to craft a similar piece of legislation and turn the gun back on us. And that's one of the reasons why I've been looking at this, as everybody's been talking about it, and looking at it a lot like with Social Security and a lot of the other things that were started with the best of intentions. You don't know what it's going to morph into 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years down the road, and I think this was a bad idea because it sets a very bad precedent.
You side with one of the rare times you side with President Obama.
This is probably the only time since he's been in office that I have sided with President Obama, and it literally makes me nauseous that I actually agree with Old Barry Big Ears. But it doesn't change the fact that I agree with Old Barry Big Ears.
What did you call him?
Old Barry Big Ears.
What did you call him?
Old Barry Big Ears. It's been my nickname for him for about 9 years now.
Oh my god! You should trademark that.
It goes back to the picture of the high school or the college ID that was going around that somebody was putting around all over the place, and I still don't even know if it was photoshopped or whatever. But it had a picture of a very young. Barry Satoro, I think was the name that was on the ID, and he had the afro with the ears sticking out like 4 miles and the cheesy grin. I'm like, oh my god, he looks, and that was kind of my nickname for him ever since, was Old Barry Big Ears. I haven't used it often, but this is one of the times I felt like it fit because I actually feel sick to my stomach because for once I actually agree with him, and I never thought I would. But yeah, so that's my thoughts on that. And again, more of a chest puff.
You weren't someone who was on the left like me, and then switched to the right. So hey.
Well, the
U.S. has taken the court before. I mean, we've been taken to the ICJ over Guatemala, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, we've been taken to the World Trade Organization. The Palestinian Authority has been sued in New York. I mean, it's not the first time that the U.S. has tried to interact with another outside entity through the legal system.
Yeah, and I understand all of that, and I understand on the face of it, again, for the short term, this isn't going to be a drastic change. It isn't necessarily anything new. But again, I think it sets a very bad precedent because of specifically what they were going after this country for. Because at this point, we're basically holding a country responsible for the actions of a few. That's a problem for me. Because how many, I mean, look at it from this perspective. How many people do we know have left America as U.S. citizens, gone over and trained as Hamas, ISIS, and all of these other groups, and then have gone over to Israel and done God knows what while they were there or in all of these other countries?
Very few.
Very few, yes, you're right. But the thing with that is, with this now becoming legal precedents, this gives the ability, if somebody thinks it far enough through, to craft similar legislation and get it passed as a law. Another country could hold us accountable for those few of us that have left our borders, gone overseas, and inflicted mass casualties, all in the name of ISIS and Allah. And that's what I'm talking about.
I could be arrested for that, even though I didn't commit the crime?
No, but I'm saying the country itself could be sued over it and have to pay money that we don't have because we're already in debt. That's in essence.
Would you show up to court? Probably not.
And I understand that it would be a default judgment, and then it's probably not going to be worth the paper that it's printed on. But when you start getting to a point where you allow arguments like this to actually be taken into court, and there are more and more instances of it becoming a paper tiger argument, they're going to find a way to back it up eventually. And that's another thing that concerns me, because you're right. The first few times it's tried, not really going to have any teeth. It's going to basically be a non-binding resolution. This court has found you guilty for failure to appear, therefore you're responsible for blah, 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 and you're going to get a black mark on your credit rating, which in and of itself is a bad thing because we're already starting to take black marks on our credit rating. So, I mean, there are any number of ways that this stuff could pan out, and I could be completely overreacting. This could be something that never turns into anything. But having studied history as much as I have,
to look at the events that happen in the future. I think you have to look at what transpires in the future. I don't think we can jump to conclusions.
Well, I'm not necessarily jumping to conclusions though, Jackson, because I'm looking at things. I'm looking at things that have happened in the past and all of the unintended consequences from those things. Like the Social Security stuff that was all started for the best of intentions, that has now in and of itself become a Ponzi scheme administered by our government, which if anybody but the government was doing it would be considered illegal. But it's the government, so it's not illegal, and we're still stuck buying into it whether we want to or not. That was all started with the best of intentions.
Care of the elderly is a consensual idea. It's just that nowadays government has become has gone to a point where it's now insolvent. So you have to look at the times. I think it's comparing apples and oranges, the 9/11 bill and Social Security. You have to look at the times.
I mean, it's not really, though, because we're talking about the unintended consequences. The unintended consequences of the Social Security bill is they've made entire generations dependent on the pittance that they've been paying into their checks that aren't even going to be there for people like me when or if I finally am ever able to retire. If something doesn't change, the money's not going to be there. But I still have no choice but to pay into it. When in reality, if I was left to my own devices and started at age 18 and put $20 a paycheck into a savings account and simply left it there, by the time I was able to retire, I would have over $1 million in that savings account. But the government continues to have access to more of my money than that per paycheck, and yet even if I get it, I'm going to be receiving, if I'm lucky, somewhere around $700 a month for the few years that I may or may not be able to retire, assuming that the money is even still there. So that's what I'm referring to, is we need to look at other things the government has done with the best of intentions and look at the unintended consequences that have cropped up from those. Because if there were unintended...
I believe Social Security does need to be reformed. Absolutely. No doubt about it. I mean, that has been discussed during the election. I think most notably by Chris Christie, who said we need to increase the retirement age. You know, Americans are living longer. We need to increase the age, and we need to reform the system. And that those making over $1 million, they don't need that Social Security. You need to make some sacrifices.
Well, look,
kind of mentioning what you
let me just put this in the best terms possible. Let me tell you a way that we could make Social Security really solvent really fast. First of all, you do all the things that Chris Christie was just talking about. You extend out the retirement age because, let's face it, when that age was originally set, it was actually estimated that about 1% of the population that was receiving that money would live probably 2 to 3 years after they started receiving it. Most people were dying many, many years before. So that's the first thing. We need to extend out that age so we still have as many people as possible pushing that wagon. We then need to make sure that people that have that verifiable incomes of over $1 million a year, yes, they're still required to pay into it, but they don't necessarily receive anything out of it because they don't need it. The other thing that we could do to make Social Security solvent and fix a lot of the other problems is quit giving our politicians retirement packages that pay them hundreds of thousands of dollars a year for the rest of their lives because they don't need it because they're already millionaires. Once they're out of office, they don't need these gold ticket healthcare packages anymore either because they're already millionaires. If we were to simply do those 4 things, Social Security would probably run forever because look at all of the money that gets wasted by these politicians for years upon years upon years after they're out of office, and we're still paying millionaires hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in retirement for a job of public service. This job didn't even used to have a salary. They were given a daily stipend while they were traveling, and then they made a few pennies while they were in session for 3-4 weeks out of the year. The rest of the time, they were home with their constituents. There are ways to fix this. The problem is nobody wants to talk about how we actually fix it. Because if we actually took the time to allow ourselves to fix what was broken with the government would be needed less, and the government has to be needed. That's the problem that we find ourselves in today, because we now have 2 parties. That we have one, the Democrats, which used to be the ice cream party, and they still are. But now you have the Republicans that have become the new and improved ice cream party, because now Trump is putting out tweets about we're going to grant every single possible wish to every single American person. Okay, so I want my unicorn that farts pixie dust, and I want it now, Mr. Trump. Make it happen.
Oh, Rick. Do you have a unicorn that picks up pixie dust?
Well, I mean, I want one. I mean, why not? I mean, come on. Can you imagine how cool it would be to ride into work on a unicorn? I mean, come on.
Rick Robinson, everyone. Oh, I'm going to go to bed laughing. That, oh my god. Unicorn that picks up pixie dust. You know what? I would like a waffle maker. A self-making waffle machine. Too bad that can't fall from the sky. But anyway, going back to Social Security.
Self-making waffle machine, that's easy. Get a wife.
Oh, Rick. Would you be for privatizing Social Security? I wouldn't mind.
I wouldn't necessarily mind giving folks the option. I don't think we should force
money in my banking account.
Yeah, I don't think we should. I don't think we should force them either way. But yeah, I think they should have the option of, if they wanted to opt out and instead put the money into their own savings account, they should have that ability. Because again, the same thing that my parents told me and I told my children, and now I'm looking back going, God, why didn't I listen to my parents? Because I'm 43 years old, and if I'd started that little trick of put $20 back and just leave it there and let it just sit there. Because, see, the thing that banks don't tell you is once you get your balances to a certain point, they start putting your money in what's called a high-yield investment account. So that's when you really start making the money back off of what you've put in there, because for the first few years, you're not getting much off of it, but you're basically just building up a nice little nest egg. But
also, there's the Roth IRA and all these other accounts where you can invest your money and let it grow.
Well, yeah, I mean, but in reality, you can still do the same thing through a savings account, and it's safer. But yeah, I mean, so anyway. So, I mean, yeah, I think people should have the option, but I don't think the government's ever going to give them that option, because there will be too many people that will opt out, and then there will be people that didn't because they were afraid that it wouldn't work, or they wouldn't be able to control themselves well enough to keep the money, and then there'll be even less people contributing to the pie. And that's what the government is ultimately afraid of, because at this point we already have less people pushing the cart than we have riding in it.
And you're not going to be losing the entire pie. You'll still be able to retain some of it. The thing is, you won't be piggy banking off it whenever you want. You'll be able to, have a responsible budget that may be, an overstatement, a responsible stream of Social Security money, you know? Have it taxed at 2% while people get to keep most of it, but the government can take some of it and to spend it and not have an unlimited amount of Social Security funds, if that makes sense.
Well, no, and I understand that the whole argument with that makes sense, but that's not what the government wants.
Not even a tax it. They love taxing, though.
Well, yeah, but, I don't know. I mean, like I said, there's probably ways they could make it work to do both, but the simple fact of the matter is they don't really want to do both because, again, if they could really figure out a way to fix the things that are broken, we wouldn't need them anymore, and they need us to need them. But believe it or not, sir, we are officially out of time.
Would you run for president, Rick?
Would I run for president? Nobody would vote for me, so it would be pointless. But yeah, I'd love to run for president. I could be one of those like 1,600 other crazy people that you see at all the political conventions. They're like, "Here, have my card. I'm running for president." Except I'd probably run as a pastafarian president and run around with a colander on my head. It'd be great. But so anyway, believe it or not, sir, we are officially out of time. So usually, what I like to have the guests do for the last couple of minutes I have them on is remind folks where they can see you when you're not on air with me.
See me at Jackson Richmond on Twitter, at Jackson Richmond, JCKSONRICHMAN, no underscore, just at Jackson Richmond, JCKSONRICHMAN. I'm also on Facebook where you can follow me. And that's pretty much where my kingdom is.
And where I know you are currently doing a radio show. Where do you do that at?
At GW's radio station. It's called Hear the Press, every Sunday from 3 to 4 p.m. We don't have a show this Sunday, but the following Sunday we will. It's at gwradio.com.
And if he ever gets me the replay links, I'll actually be running it over here. Just giving you a hard time. All right. Also, he's being a little modest. You also write for a few publications. Why don't you tell folks about that real quick? Or not. Did I lose you?
Sure. Right. I write for Red Alert Politics, American Action News, and New Voices magazine, which primarily targets Jewish college students. I've also written for the Weekly Standard and the Daily Caller.
See, now you're just showing off. Just playing. All right. Anyway, folks, this has been a special late night live edition of America Off the Rails. For those of you listening live, thank you for taking the time to tune in. Whether you listen to us here on a home station, KLRNradio.com, or Red Nation Rising Radio, AMFM247.com, or Spreaker, Stitcher, SoundCloud, iHeart, iTunes, Blueberry, Pocket Cast, FM Player, or God, there's so many I can't even remember them all anymore. Whether you're choosing to listen live or Memorex, thank you very much for taking the time to listen. Do hope you guys enjoy the rest of your very late evening or the rest of your midday, because this will probably be the, I guess this will be the the third hour tomorrow. So this would actually be airing in the 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock Eastern time frame. So if you're listening then, hope you guys enjoy the rest of your afternoon. If you're listening now, have a great night. I will be back with you live tomorrow night or today, depending on when you're listening, for the Robinson and Wright Show here on KLNRradio.com every Friday at 11 p.m. Eastern. We're out. Have a great night. Take care. God bless. Don't go away. Well, I guess you got to go away because we're closing up shop for the night. Take care. Bye.
Screw you guys. I'm going home. Later.
Game over, man. It's game over.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same.
I'm not ready to end the fight. I'm not ready to back down. 'Cause I've been through hell and I don't have time to go round and round and round. It's too late to turn back now. You know I wouldn't if I could. 'Cause I'm proud as hell. I can't bring myself to do what it is you think I should.
Well, hello everybody. This is the Jen Rick Show. I'm one half of the crew, Rick. She's the other half, Jen. We're going to spend about the next hour talking to you about things that matter in the news, things we think are funny, things that NASA may or may not have screwed up on, and whether or not we have two candidates that have already possibly potentially committed treason. That's right, not just one, possibly two. But we're going to get to all that and more on this particular episode of Jen and Rick, and I'm going to take a second to let my co-host say good evening. How are you, ma'am?
I'm doing good. Just, as always, hanging out, watching all this crud go down.
Watching all the drama, man.
All the drama.
So, something, and this is kind of an audible because we didn't talking about this, but it's big in the news right now. Something that I just really am really kind of perturbed about, okay? So we've had all these different chances where Congress could have stood up to Obama and said, no, we really want this to happen, so it doesn't matter that you vetoed it. We're going to stand up and make sure that the people's voice is heard, and we're going to veto you on important things, like possibly maybe Obamacare or, the internet thing that's going on right now. But no. They couldn't do any of that. What they decided to do is there's been a bill that's been floating around Congress for a few weeks now that has made it possible, or the bill would have made it possible, for the family members of 9/11 victims to sue the country of Saudi Arabia. Now, on the face of it, this is one of those little chest puff moments where you're like, oh, great, good things for Americans. Saudi Arabia was evil. They were behind all this stuff, and that's a good thing, right? I mean, they should be able to get reparations. Notice I said reparations. Let's not forget there's another body right now that says the United States owes reparations to a certain group of people for upending their lives hundreds of years ago, having their relatives brought over here, etc. This is one of those unintended consequences type scenarios that I really don't think anybody has thought through. Just saying.
Yeah, I don't think so either. All of these things, I don't know. With Obama, it just seems like what he chooses and what this Congress then chooses to really fight on or not. And, there's different wings, I think, in the Republican Party in Congress. There's the kind of what typically we've described as the establishment wing that kind of compromises, rolls over, would be what a lot of people would use. Or otherwise...
I prefer the term bends over, but that's okay.
Bends over. Engages with the Democrats in a positive manner, and tries to compromise and be bipartisan, and not go too hard against. That's how it feels. That's how it seems, and I think that's one of those many things that led us to Trump. And then there's the faction of the Republican Party that constantly fights anything and everything, and sometimes not even for a good reason. Sometimes it's just because it's Obama. So in this situation, we've got the entire Senate, except for one, that votes, to override a veto. And I think that in recent memory is one of the most cooperative actions taken by this group of people that I've seen in a long time. And it just was kind of interesting to me. And I think, a lot of it has to do with the emotions of the recent passing of the 15-year mark of 9/11.
Yeah, that's one way to look at it. Let me put my pragmatist hat on because, it sounds great. 15th anniversary. Congress finally did something that they view to be constructive, but let's dissect this a little bit because who's really going to see the most money out of deals like this? It's going to be the attorneys. It's going to be the same law firms that donate to these people day in and day out and hold fundraisers and invite them to big parties and connect them with the right people, and they just got a huge feather in their cap. But what nobody's taking into account is, this is great. Okay, so America can sue Saudi Arabia for things that Saudi Arabian citizens may or may not have done or helped do involved in the Twin Tower attack. But has anybody thought about what happens now that the reverse is going to happen? Because what do you think is going to happen the first time somebody finally says, hey, let's stick it to these Arabs and let's go sue Saudi Arabia? What do you think's going to happen? Do you think Saudi Arabia is going to sit down for that? Do you think they're just going to be like, oh, yeah, we fully understand that our people have done something bad and therefore we're just going to hand you all this money? No. They're going to start looking for any little excuse they can find to return the favor and start suing people that have done things to them that they don't like, or soldiers that have done things that were inappropriate, etc. And then we're going to have to be left as a country holding that bag. And that's exactly what I mean by unintended consequences. This is one of those things that I talk about all the time. Look, for all of you right now that are pounding your chest and you're like, oh my God, this is great, this is great. If you're just because you're okay with it now, when the shoe is suddenly on the other foot, and all of a sudden the other side that we're now ready to go lawsuit crazy against has the same general power and can turn that back on us, are you still going to be just as happy? I think the answer to that question is probably no.
Right. Well, and I also think you said something a minute ago that I was going to comment on. What was it? Well, I do think that they're not only just like lawsuit happy, but it does kind of, I think it's kind of a show thing. I mean, they can't really expect to get anything from this, right? I mean, it's like you said, it's either going to get turned around on us or it's not going to really go anywhere. One thing, as with everything, or I do wish was the case, was that none of it had anything to do with the federal government or our president or our Congress deciding whether an individual could or couldn't do this thing. But that's the world we live in, and especially with international relations, that's the road we have to go down. But I think that it, especially the vote in the Senate, was more of an emotional vote and a show vote than it was really about the likelihood of winning any sort of lawsuit against these countries.
I mean, because let's face it, everybody knows that the lawsuit's not going to be worth the paper it's printed on by the time it's all said and done. Because let's not forget that at this point we're looking at a really good shot of being involved in something. Anybody remember the TPP? That is still being bantied about and is still in the works, and nobody's really talking about it right now because we're too busy watching two monkeys and one in a pantsuit and one in a regular suit trying to fornicate a football at the same time, and it's just fun and entertaining. And I'm sorry, that's still my synopsis of the debate.
Funny.
But yeah, so I mean, just that, never mind that, and let's not forget the fat shaming of the beauty pageant contestant, etc. Because there aren't really important things that are still going on that nobody's talking about. Like, again, this lawsuit bill that is now apparently going to become a law because it's been overridden. And, I just have to say this because this is probably the only time I'm ever going to have to say this. But damn you for making me side with Old Barry Big Ears. Because I've never agreed with that man about anything in the nearly 8 years he's been in office. And for once, I'm having to side with him. And for once, he's not wrong. This was a terrible idea.
Right. I know. That always is frustrating. And, I think this was probably one of those things that he didn't want to have to be on that side of. I mean, who wants to be looking at 9/11 families saying, you can't do that because it will have these consequences or it will be problematic in these ways? Who wants to look at the families of people that lost someone in our greatest, national tragedy and say, no, sorry, you can't get reparations from that through these avenues. I don't think this is something that he chose lightly to go up against. And I think also, again, and that kind of leads me to where I say, I think some of these people just fight it just because of his name, just because it is Obama.
It's interesting that you say that, because this morning when I'd heard the news, because I was a little behind, I actually tweeted out that I don't think we thought this through very well, which is kind of the way I opened the show. And I actually started seeing people tweet out the fact that they don't care about the unintended